Hello guys, this is Algirdas with Hello guys, this is Algirdas with quick playing tips, and today we're gonna change up the format of my videos a little bit. I've got a guest to interview, and this is a well-renowned euphonium player, tutor, one of the most known names in the American brass, low brass culture, Mr. LaDuke, who also happens to be my tutor at the Carnegie Mellon University. And Lance is one of the players who actually done it all. So he won a job at the American Air Force, USA Air Force military band at a very early age, early in his career. And for those, especially for the European audience who don't know, that's probably the most well-paid euphonium job, full-time euphonium job in the world, probably, as far as my knowledge goes. Then he pursued his career playing with one of the most renowned chamber music groups, brass groups called Boston Brass. Then he ended up playing in the only full-time professional brass band in the world, the River City Brass Band. And currently he's teaching at two universities, which is Duquesne University and the Carnegie Mellon University, where he not only teaches students how to play and does music performance teaching, but he's also a business tutor. So, hey, nice having you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So
you can say nice things about me as much as you want. I appreciate it.
I'm trying my best. That's probably all I've got for
I'll give you a good grade. This is good.
So if you could just give the audience a little bit more detailed intro about your background, how did you come up, to Pittsburgh, and just talk a little bit about your career as a musician.
I grew up in Michigan, which is where, fortunately for me, I studied, my band director in high school was a euphonium player. I started on the trumpet, and then I had a hard time playing high notes. And my band director had studied with a man named Leonard Falcone at Michigan State University. And Leonard Falcone for 40 years taught low brass, and for 24, 25 years was the director of bands there. And I should say both of my parents were, both of my grandfathers were musicians, so it was not that shocking to them that I wanted to go into music. And so my band director suggested that I switch to the euphonium because of the embouchure issues I was having, or the range issues, and that I could continue to play the same sheet music in treble clef on the euphonium. So I took to the euphonium and went to Michigan State and studied with a man named Phil Cinder, who was my teacher there for my degree in music education. And then when I was student teaching, I realized that being a teacher was difficult. Like a band director at a high school is a very, very hard way to make a living. So I thought that is not what I want to do if I can go play. Yeah, I mean, God bless them. It's really, I mean, band is what saved me. I mean, band gave me an opportunity to have the life that I have now, and it sounds like a silly thing, but it really, I had a colorful childhood, and the band room was the safest place for me sometimes. And so the opportunity to grow and to strive and to work on this thing and to get better, either I got better or I didn't get better on my shoulders. That was up to me. That was a really, really pivotal thing for me. And so after student teaching, I realized that maybe I would like to go play. So I went to the University of Akron and studied with a man named Tucker Jolly. And I was there for 1 year. And actually the director of bands there was a guy named Bob Jorgensen, who was also a former Falcone student and had played in the Army Field Band. And so I spent that year working about 6 hours a day to get ready for the Air Force Band audition, and I won the Air Force Band audition.
Just sorry for interrupting.
Yep.
Was that the second time you were having the Air Force?
That's right. Yeah, it is the second time. When I was a sophomore at Michigan State, so I would have been about 19, I saw that there was this, I didn't even really understand, I didn't switch to the euphonium because I wanted to make a career in euphonium. I knew I wanted to be in music, and I loved the sound of the euphonium, and that was all I needed to know. I didn't, the job prospects wasn't didn't even occur to me. I just thought I was going to become a band director, a music teacher, and that was going to be fine. And I just loved the sound of the euphonium, and I took to it, and I emulated the Falcone records, and so I was a sophomore at Michigan State, and I think my teacher must have told me that there was this audition in Washington, D.C., and I had gone to some event. I can't remember. I was at there's a band fraternity called Kappa Kappa Psi, and Tau Beta Sigma is the sorority. And so I'd gone to this convention for that, and then drove through the night to play this audition, and I didn't have any idea what was at stake. I didn't know any of the repertoire. I didn't even know. It wasn't until the second time that I went that I had any idea that I should have been embarrassed to be there the first time. But I was just like this happy-go-lucky 19, 20-year-old kid, and I was like, hey, nice to meet you, and I played some stuff and got to meet Brian Bowman, and hey, isn't this nice, and well, thanks very much. I was like, thank you, and then out the door, just like a happy little lamb. I had no clue that I should have been embarrassed.
Could you just quickly explain what's the deal with the Air Force Band? Because obviously American players know how big of a deal is that,
sure.
But for like European, because in Europe, when you win a military job, it's like, okay, cool, you know. But
right, it's a supplementary.
That's what I thought, because people in Europe don't understand that the military band work in USA is the job for
sure.
euphonium. It's like the job, and the Air Force Band is like the job in the world for the...
Well, the way the military bands work in the U.S., there's a band program for each of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, and for each of them there's some number of bands, and I don't know what the exact number is for the Air Force bands now, and there are bands stationed all over the world. In Washington, D.C., there are what they call premier bands, and the premier bands get you get, as soon as you go through basic training, then you get a more advanced rank, and the justification is that you come to the Air Force already trained. So if you're going to go be a radar operator, you go to basic training, then they have to train you how to do your job. When you show up and you're going into one of the premier bands, you already know how to, you won the position in the Air Force band or the Marine band or whichever it is, and you already know how to play your instrument. So that's the justification for the advanced promotion. So in Washington, D.C., there are 4 of the branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, have a permanent band there. The Army actually has 2 in the area, Army Band and the Army Field Band. And those are full-time professional organizations, much like an orchestra, a professional orchestra, where it's a 12-month commitment, and you play concerts and go on tours. And actually, when you say the Air Force, the Coast Guard Band is up in Connecticut. The Air Force Band, at least when I was in, this is going back some years, was about 200 people, and out of that there were about 60 or so for the concert band, another 24 or so for the ceremonial brass. There was a big band, strings, chorus, a rock band, a whole bunch of supplemental staff, audio crew. So the unit itself was about 200 folks, but the concert band that I was in was about 60 or 65 players, 2 euphoniums, and it was really fun. It is the only full-time, full benefits playing opportunity of its kind in the U.S. Any of those DC bands have that. And which band is the best is a debate that rages on, and it depends on who's in command and what sort of forces are there. But I can tell you that some of the best players I've ever had the opportunity to play with were in the Air Force Band when I was there.
Is that the standard number, like 60 or 65 people for the military?
Something like that. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good guess.
So